Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. There are days when talking about faith feels easy. And then there are days when faith must be lived out step by step. Walk It Out Wednesday is not about shouting your beliefs. It's about moving forward, even when your strength feels low. It is the reminder that progress doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like simply getting up, putting one foot in front of the other, and refusing to quit. Life will test you in the middle of the week. Monday brings motivation. Tuesday brings momentum. But Wednesday often brings pressure. This is where many people slow down, lose focus, or question their purpose. But Wednesday is not a stopping point. It is a proving ground. What you do when you are tired determines whether you will reach what you prayed for. Walking it out means continuing even when clarity is missing. You may not see the full picture, but you must trust the direction. Faith is not proven by what you say in comfort. It is revealed by how you move in discomfort. Every step taken in obedience builds endurance, and endurance shapes character. Sometimes the path feels lonely. People who clapped for you at the beginning may not be there in the middle. That does not mean you are wrong. It means you are growing. Growth often happens in silence, in routine, in consistency. When no one is watching, your walk still matters. Do not rush the process. Walking allows you to learn, to heal, and to mature. Running without wisdom leads to burnout, but walking with purpose leads to longevity. Small steps taken daily can carry you further than one big leap made without discipline. So on this Wednesday, don't look for shortcuts. Don't wait for applause. Don't quit because it's uncomfortable. Walk it out with faith, patience, and determination. What you keep walking through today will become the testimony you stand on tomorrow. Faith is not something that lives only in words, emotions, or moments of inspiration. It is something that must be expressed through movement. Many people say they believe, but belief that never moves remains incomplete. Real faith begins when comfort ends, when certainty disappears, and when the only thing left to do is take the next step, even though the path ahead is unclear. Movement turns belief into evidence. When you move forward without having all the answers, you are declaring that trust matters more than understanding. There are seasons when standing still feels safer than moving forward. Fear whispers that waiting is wisdom, that silence is protection, and that delay is caution. But there is a difference between waiting with purpose and stopping because of fear. Faith does not always wait for perfect conditions. Faith often moves in imperfect moments. When you choose to move despite fear, you are not denying reality. You are refusing to let reality control your destiny. Each step taken in faith weakens fear's authority over your life. Movement in faith does not require confidence in yourself. It requires confidence in direction. You may feel weak, unsure, and unprepared, but faith shifts the focus away from your ability and toward your obedience. You don't have to feel strong to move forward. You only have to be willing. Strength often shows up after the step is taken, not before. Many people wait to feel ready, but readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision. Walking in faith also means accepting that progress can be slow. Faith is not always fast. Sometimes it looks like small, steady steps that seem insignificant at the moment. Yet these small steps compound over time. One decision to keep going, repeated daily, can change the entire direction of a life. People often underestimate the power of consistency because it lacks drama. But faith expressed consistently creates stability, endurance, and growth that emotional excitement never can. There will be moments when movement feels pointless. You will walk and still feel stuck. You will move and still feel tired. You will obey and still not see results. This is where many people quit, not because they don't believe, but because they don't see immediate reward. Faith teaches patience by demanding movement without guarantees. It trains the heart to trust process over outcome. What you are building in these unseen moments is not just progress, it is character. Movement also reveals priorities. What you move towards shows what you truly value. Faith expressed through movement aligns your actions with your beliefs. It closes the gap between what you say you trust and how you actually live. When faith becomes action, excuses lose their power. You stop blaming circumstances and start taking responsibility for the steps you can take today. Walking forward in faith requires humility. It admits that you don't know everything, but you are still willing to follow the direction you have been given. Pride wants full clarity before movement. Faith accepts partial understanding. Every step becomes an act of surrender, saying, I don't need to control the whole journey to take the next step. This kind of movement reshapes the inner life, teaching dependence, trust, and perseverance. Faithful movement also attracts resistance. Growth challenges comfort, and progress exposes insecurity. Not everyone will understand your steps, and not everyone will support your direction. Some will question why you keep moving when the results are not visible. Others will mock your consistency because they confuse silence with failure. But faith does not require approval. It requires obedience. Your responsibility is not to explain your movement, but to continue it. As you continue to move, something powerful happens within you. Fear begins to lose its grip. Doubt starts to fade. Confidence grows, not because circumstances improve, but because you have proven to yourself that you can move forward even when things are difficult. Each step becomes a memory of resilience, a reminder that you are capable of progress even under pressure. Movement in faith also creates momentum. The first step is often the hardest, but once movement begins, it becomes easier to continue. Action creates clarity. Direction becomes clearer as you walk, not before. Many answers are found along the path, not at the starting point. Faith understands that clarity follows obedience, not the other way around. Eventually, you realize that the true reward of walking in faith is not just what you reach, but who you become. You become stronger, more patient, more grounded. You learn that faith is not fragile, it is resilient. It survives uncertainty, disappointment, and delay. And through movement, faith transforms from a belief you hold into a life you live. In the end, faith proven through movement teaches one simple truth. You don't have to see the whole road to take the next step. You just have to keep walking. The middle of the journey is often the most uncomfortable place to be. It is where excitement has faded, results are not yet visible, and fatigue begins to speak louder than motivation. This is the space where strength is truly formed, not in beginnings filled with passion, and not at endings crowned with reward, but in the quiet, demanding middle where persistence is tested. Many people misunderstand this stage and mistake discomfort for failure, but the middle is not a sign that something is wrong. It is evidence that growth is happening. In the middle, you are far enough from the start to know that turning back would be costly, yet far enough from the finish to wonder if continuing is worth the effort. Doubt often shows up here disguised as logic. It asks reasonable sounding questions. Is this still worth it? Shouldn't this be easier by now? Maybe this wasn't meant to work. These thoughts do not come because you are weak. They come because you are stretching beyond what is familiar. The middle exposes limits, but it also expands them. Strength built in the middle is not loud or dramatic. It develops quietly through repetition. Showing up again when nothing seems to change builds endurance that cannot be faked. Every time you choose to continue, you reinforce your capacity to persist. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes manageable, and what once drained you begins to shape you. This kind of strength does not rely on emotional highs. It is rooted in discipline and commitment. The middle also strips away false motivation. In the beginning, excitement carries you. People encourage you, energy is high, and progress feels rapid. But that energy eventually fades. And when it does, the real question emerges: will you continue without applause? Will you keep going when the rewards are delayed? This is where intention replaces inspiration. You learn to move forward not because you feel like it, but because you decided to. There is a refining process that happens in the middle. Comfort is removed, shortcuts disappear, and excuses are exposed. You begin to see clearly what matters and what doesn't. Weak habits are challenged and strong ones are formed. The middle demands honesty. It forces you to confront your reasons, your fears, and your commitment. This confrontation is uncomfortable, but it is necessary for growth. The middle is also where patience is learned. You realize that rushing does not produce better outcomes. It only produces burnout. Progress that lasts is built slowly with care and consistency. Learning to endure delays without quitting trains the mind to value long-term growth over short-term relief. Patience formed in the middle becomes a lifelong strength that carries into every area of life. Loneliness often accompanies the middle. The crowd that celebrated the start may not walk with you through the process. Support may decrease and encouragement may be scarce. This solitude is not punishment, it is preparation. In quiet moments, you learn to rely on inner conviction rather than external validation. You develop self-trust, learning that you can continue even when no one is watching. Resistance intensifies in the middle. Challenges increase, not decrease. This is not because you are moving in the wrong direction, but because progress invites opposition. Strength is not built by ease, it is built by resistance. Just as muscles grow through strain, inner strength grows through pressure. The middle teaches you how to withstand difficulty without becoming bitter or discouraged. In this stage, perspective shifts. You stop measuring success only by outcomes and begin measuring it by faithfulness to the process. Each day you show up becomes a victory. Each moment you choose perseverance over quitting becomes evidence of growth. You begin to understand that the middle is not wasted time, it is foundational time. The middle also prepares you for what lies ahead. The endurance you build now equips you to handle future responsibilities. Without the pressure of the middle, success would overwhelm you. Strength gained here ensures that when progress finally becomes visible, you are mature enough to sustain it. The middle builds capacity, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Eventually, you realize that the middle is where identity is shaped. You stop seeing yourself as someone who starts things and begin seeing yourself as someone who finishes. This shift changes how you approach challenges. You no longer fear difficulty. You expect it and move through it with confidence. The middle teaches one of life's most valuable lessons. Progress is not proven by how you start, but by how you continue. Strength formed here does not fade when circumstances change. It remains steady, reliable, and resilient. When you finally reach the end, You will recognize that the most important transformation did not happen at the finish line. It happened in the middle, where you learn to keep going. Intensity feels powerful in the moment. It shows up as sudden motivation, emotional excitement, and the urge to change everything at once. It promises quick results and dramatic transformation. But intensity is unstable. It rises fast and fades just as quickly. Consistency, on the other hand, moves quietly and steadily. It does not demand attention, yet it produces results that last. True transformation is rarely the product of one strong moment. It is the outcome of many faithful, repeated steps taken over time. People often overestimate what they can do in a short burst and underestimate what they can achieve through steady effort. Intensity depends on feelings, and feelings are unpredictable. Some days you feel inspired, confident, and energized. Other days you feel tired, discouraged, and distracted. If progress depends on how you feel, progress will be inconsistent. Consistency removes emotions from the equation. It creates a system of showing up regardless of mood, energy, or circumstance. Small actions repeated daily may seem insignificant at first. Skipping one day feels harmless, and doing a little extra feels unnecessary. But time magnifies habits. What feels small today becomes powerful over months and years. A consistent practice compounds, shaping character, discipline, and identity. Intensity may impress others, but consistency changes the person practicing it. Consistency also protects against burnout. Intense effort without rest or rhythm drains energy and creates exhaustion. Many people quit not because they lack ability, but because they push too hard, too fast. Consistent effort respects limits. It allows growth without destroying balance. By pacing yourself, you create sustainability. You don't just reach goals, you maintain them. There is humility in consistency. It accepts that growth takes time and that shortcuts rarely lead to lasting success. It requires patience because results are not immediate. This patience builds resilience. You learn to trust the process even when progress feels invisible. Over time, consistency builds confidence. Not from sudden wins, but from knowing you can rely on yourself to keep going. Consistency also reshapes identity. You stop seeing effort as something you occasionally do and start seeing it as part of who you are. You become someone who shows up. This identity shift is powerful. When behavior aligns with identity, habits become easier to maintain. You no longer rely on motivation, you rely on commitment. Inconsistent intensity creates emotional cycles of excitement and disappointment. You feel powerful when motivation is high and defeated when it fades. Consistency stabilizes these emotional swings. It creates a steady rhythm that anchors you during difficult seasons. When life becomes unpredictable, consistent habits provide structure and security. The quiet nature of consistency often goes unnoticed. There is little applause for daily discipline. No one celebrates the ordinary effort of showing up again. But this hidden work builds visible results over time. Consistency teaches you to work without needing recognition. This internal validation strengthens focus and reduces dependence on external approval. Consistency also increases clarity. When you act regularly, patterns emerge. You learn what works and what doesn't. Intense, sporadic effort doesn't allow for reflection or adjustment. Consistency creates space for learning. Small corrections made consistently lead to continuous improvement. There will be days when consistency feels boring. Repetition can feel dull and progress may feel slow. But boredom is not failure, it is part of mastery. Those who succeed are not the most excited, but the most committed. They continue even when the work feels ordinary. This endurance builds excellence. Over time, consistent effort creates momentum. What once required discipline begins to feel natural. Habits become routines, and routines become lifestyle. This momentum makes growth easier, not harder. The effort required decreases as consistency increases. Ultimately, consistency outlasts intensity because it is built on trust rather than emotion. You trust the process, trust your commitment, and trust that small steps matter. While intensity may start the journey, consistency finishes it. Lasting transformation belongs not to those who burn bright for a moment, but to those who keep showing up day after day, step by step, until change becomes permanent. Thank you for watching.